Cardiff City have beaten West Ham United 2-0. Relegation threatened Cardiff City have beaten West Ham United 2-0. Now, I'm joined by Tom today, and hopefully Tom's going to give us a little bit of the voice of reason. Maybe he can look a little bit more analytically into stuff, because quite frankly, I've got the ump. I'm not happy at all with what's gone down today. It seemed to smack of Wimbledon syndrome. And I thought we were sort of cured of that. But it's that mindset, that arrogance of turning up to a game against a team you think you should beat, you know you should beat, and thinking that 80% is going to be enough, because we started very, very slowly, Tom.
We did, mate, and that was the theme for the whole 96 minutes. We were just so lethargic throughout the performance. It was dreadful, mate. And you've alluded to it there. I completely agree. It smacks of complacency. It has to be complacency, because it happens too often now. Even the big sides lose the odd game that's a bit of a shock. Happens to us all the time. I saw a strange stat before the game. We've only won 1 in 8 or something away from home against teams that started the day in the bottom 3. Well, that's 1 in 9 now. There's no coincidences there. It's sheer complacency. We're turning it on in the games against the teams in the top half, and we're just turning up here expecting to win. Against Wolves, if you remember, we lost 3-0. Wolves are a good side, and I after that game, I was a little bit, I blamed injuries and things like that. That can't be blamed today. That was a bloody good side out there today. We had the likes of Anderson, Lanzini, Snodgrass, Hernandez, Rice. That team is more than capable of turning up to Cardiff and completely putting them to the sword, as far as I'm concerned, because they're a poor team. They played well today. They're well organised, but we were just so lethargic. We moved the ball around so slowly. It was embarrassing. I'm really annoyed at that, mate. Really annoyed.
Yeah, it's really hard to know what to read into it. I mean, I totally agree with what you say about the standard of players that we had out on a pitch. A part of me's wondering, is that part of it? Did that add to... I was going to say swagger, but we didn't really play with any swagger. So I'm going to use the word arrogance, because I do think we turned up with an arrogance today, like we could give it, do it a little bit half-hearted, and that they were going to roll over. And of course, Cardiff didn't roll over. In a slow start, we can't. There's a lot of this stuff in Pellegrini we trust. And in the main, I agree, and I do. And when I say in Pellegrini I trust, I think in a long-term project, I want to see him get his 3 years, maybe even longer, to build his team, to keep getting the investment and build a team in his image. The ethos and the mantra, that's what I trust him. But I don't trust that he's doing everything right. And there's got to be something amiss in the team talks before those teams go out to play. Well, before we go out to play, Gio mentioned it in one of the videos we've done this week, that the Billy Bonds naming of the stand had created a raucous atmosphere inside the London Stadium. And Gio alludes to the fact that that was good, because normally we started slowly. Well, he must have been right, because we started slowly again today. And obviously this is a video for West Ham fans. But there will be some Cardiff fans that watch this. So I just want to say this right now to get it out of the way, because we've got to dissect it. We've got to go through and have a look at all the incidents in the game. So I just want to say that I think probably Cardiff should have won about 4-0, and Xavier Hernandez dived. So let's get that out of the way before we get accused of being biased. I do think they should have done. But they scored within the first 5 minutes. Murphy sort of broke free down the right, and Cresswell seemed to go inside and lose his man, but there was still time to retrieve the situation, Tom. But when the ball came in and Hoylett finished it, our defenders were doing musical statues or the mannequin challenge in the middle.
Yeah, he was totally on his own, weren't he? I don't really know what happened there. I'll be honest with that one. My stream completely froze at the wrong moment, and I missed that goal. And I saw the very last replay of it. So I've seen it once. And from what I saw, Bonner and Cresswell were totally in opposite positions. Bonner had gone out to the man out wide, and Cresswell had come inside but lost Hoylett. Like I say, seen it once, but it looked to me like we was all over the shop. Just left him on his own. Cool finish, by the way. But yeah, again, sloppy.
Well, I can tell you now, Tom, it wasn't your stream that froze, mate. That was actually the players running. That's how they were. When your screen went completely static, that's what the defenders were doing. There, nothing. Terrible. I mean, just terrible defending, and indicative of the mindset. And I've written down some notes, quite a few notes there. And I've got, 6 minutes. So this is after we've just conceded a goal. West Ham are sleeping. I've written down it's just sleepy West Ham. And I'm watching it and watching the way we're playing. And Anderson got hauled off at half-time. Now, the reason is that he had a knock or whatever. And I like Anderson. I think Anderson's been a good signing. But sometimes you need to be a little bit sure in the way that you pass the ball, the way that you care for the ball. Because what Anderson was doing is, rather than passing very surely, they're all flicks around the corner, flicks with the side of your foot. And they don't always come off. A flick off the side of your foot is less certain than a direct pass. And we were just losing the ball a lot all over the park, Tom.
Yeah, we were. And again, like I say, it's just lethargic. Nobody was willing to make runs to make it easier for the person on the ball, which made it harder. I think that's why Anderson was having to try clever little passes, because there were just no other options for him to make. I thought it was harsh. And did you say you come off injured? Sorry.
That's what the commentator said.
Oh, okay. Because I was going to say it was a bit harsh for him to be hooked, I thought, personally. But yeah, I thought it all came to that. It was just a sheer lack of energy and desire, no movement. And I just think that makes it harder for the player on the ball. And it was the main factor in us constantly losing possession, because it was just sloppy, lethargic, rubbish, terrible.
Well, I don't think we had a shot on target until the 75th minute, because Declan Rice later on in the second half had a shot which hit the post, which is obviously not on target. Good. Was Arnautovic's shot, but Arnautovic did come on. But until that point, we hadn't threatened the goal at all. So we've got a set-piece specialist in the team in Robert Snodgrass, who I think has got 9 assists this season. Well, there's no point having a set-piece specialist in the team if you're not going to create set pieces. And I'll tell you what, you're not going to have corners, you're not going to have free kicks. You're not going to get those things unless you attack. I don't understand. I can sort of understand a Cardiff team that are fighting relegation. I can sort of understand that they are going to come at us, that they're going to have a bit more fight than us. A Neil Warnocks team, I get that. But what I don't understand is why we can't attack. Why we pose such little threat. We just didn't ever really threaten a Cardiff team. And I was there watching it. They get 15, 20 minutes. I know we start slow. We're going to start to get back into this. We're going to start to threaten them. We didn't threaten them. But when Arnautovic did come on, he came on for Anderson. I thought, Tom, that if anybody, half time, it was going to be Arnautovic for the totally isolated and ineffective Javier Hernandez.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was calling for, mate. A straight swap. Hernandez was totally ineffective. He was totally crowded out in the middle, and that's sort of how the game went. We got ourselves into the final third and then did nothing other than pass it around very slowly, take too many touches on the ball. Nothing. We weren't penetrating in any way whatsoever. And it wasn't as if Hernandez was running into the channels to create space for Lanzini to run in from deep. He wasn't doing any of that. And I thought that's why I thought Arnautovic would be a good change. But he came on, nothing changed anyway. I mean, it was still the same as it was in the first half. But yeah, he was totally ineffective. And that's disappointing, because at the start of the game, I saw the lineup. I thought, great, correct decision completely. I think Hernandez has been playing well of late. I really do. But in hindsight, which is a wonderful thing, he was terrible, mate. And as for that dive, you've already talked about that. Disgrace.
It was bad. And the one plus point, it's hard to call it a plus point. I'm struggling to find a word. The one thing that wasn't totally disgraceful in the first half from a West Ham point of view, I thought Fredericks started just towards the end of the first half to get his run on his marker, to start to impose himself a little bit. I just wish, and I said it in the last one, and now I've noticed it. I'm thinking of it. Just wish he'd get his head up. He's got the pace and he can go past. Wish he'd get his head up, have a look, just to help him. There was one time where he sort of, the cross didn't find his man. There was another time where he could have really perhaps picked out Hernandez. But we went in, and it was half time and 1-0 down at that point. We've discussed the change that we thought should happen. We'll talk about their second goal, which again came very, very quickly. And was his name Camarasa? That was his name. There was a little bit of a hint of offside on. Retrospectively, when it was looked at, it wasn't offside at all. And it was Fredericks, that man we just discussed again, sort of played the ball. I think he was trying to clear it, but he played it into Hoylett's path. Hoylett, who played really, really well. And as the game got on, he seemed to be causing Fredericks more and more trouble. he crossed the ball over. Probably your stream froze again, Tom, because it was Cresswell and Ogbonna both lost their men in the middle.
Yeah, they did. It was a series of errors, this was. I mean, Ryan Fredericks initially doesn't stop the cross, which you expect him to do, so that's poor. And then, Ogbonna doesn't win the header, and Fabianski, I don't want to label any blame at him for that, but I mean, you could argue that as well. It was just a comedy of errors, if you like. But and obviously Fredericks keeping them on side. So there's about 3 or 4 errors in there, to be honest with you, mate. Fredericks probably 2 of them, which was a bit harsh on him, because I quite agree with what you said earlier. I was enjoying his performance, especially first half. But yeah, again, one of those things, mate. And 2-0.
Antonio and Nasri came on for Noble and Lanzini. What were your thoughts when that happened, mate?
What was that, mate? What were my thoughts?
Sorry, yeah, Antonio, the substitutions, Antonio
Yeah.
and Nasri on for Noble and Lanzini. Did that make any difference? What you know, I mean, well, you know what I think, but
yeah, no, not at all. I can't believe he bought Lanzini off, unless that's a case of trying to protect him a little bit. Now we'll probably never know. It could be. If it was tactical, no, I don't see why that change was made. Nasri was fairly ineffective when he came on as well. At least Lanzini was trying to make things happen. I know he'd just lost the ball just before that, which let Cardiff in, but I don't think it would have been anything to do with that. He was passing and probing away. He was probably our most dangerous player. That's not saying a lot. So yeah, that substitution was a strange one. I understand the Antonio one. Get somebody in it's actually a bit direct, going to actually run at them a bit. Because like I say, it was very pretty, slow-moving passing in and around just in front of their 18-yard area with no penetration. So it made sense for him to come on. He just couldn't do it all on his own, I'm afraid. He had a great run at one point, tried having a shot, and it's still travelling now, unfortunately.
Yeah, it was better. He normally hits those like that with his left, but this one was with his stronger foot. Would you believe it? There were times when his technique really let him down today, Antonio. But then again, the players that you would expect a good technique from, which would say Nasri, Lanzini, Anderson, they weren't offering an awful lot. It was, in fact, I think we probably, you know what, the analysis, that was it. We lost 2-0. There was a really nice double save from Fabianski, which probably stopped it. Just before that was another save. And then, of course, he got kicked in the face as well. So just for good measure. But I thought handled it, bearing in mind, been studied in the face, but he handled it really well, just like we saw when he sort of sprained his wrist or whatever. He's a tough guy, Fabianski. So good on him. But maybe it's worthwhile just having a couple of words, 10 seconds or so, our thoughts on each player, starting, well, anyway, you know what I thought about Fabianski. Ryan Fredericks, just 10 seconds on Ryan Fredericks, please, Tom.
He's roadrunner, any mate. I can't believe how quick he is. One of them chances he created, I thought he'd hit it too far in front of himself. He still manages to get there. I'm a really big fan of his going forward, but obviously you saw today there's that little bit, he's a little bit suspect defensively. Hopefully that will improve over time, mate.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a position that Pellegrini is still looking in, because I do wonder if, as you say, defensively and possibly just getting your head up, that the passing game that Pellegrini wants to play, I just wonder if he's cut out and suited to that. But I do think he's a decent player. I do think he stays around in the squad, but I think possibly might be looking at that. I thought we'll move on to Diop. My thoughts on Diop are, there was still some good moments today, but you just can't let any of the defence off, particularly for that first goal. And it wasn't just the goals. They kept on getting at us, and that was a bad time for the defence to fail, because it won't be Diop that suffers for it. It'll be the person who I want you to analyse now, Ogbonna, who'll probably find himself out of the team in the next game.
He probably will. You've got to change it up now. We've been playing brilliantly the last 3 or 4 weeks. We've all given him a lot of credit. We all wanted him to retain his place in the side. But today, after that, you just have to change it up, and you're certainly not going to drop Diop. So it's him. Yeah, he lost his man for that header. Unforgivable, really. Yeah, it's just unfortunate for him that Balbuena's back, raring to go on the bench.
Yeah, he was. Cresswell, I thought, as I say, I thought there was some culpability for the first goal with Cresswell today. And he's got to accept that. That being said, I thought he was probably frustrated by how poorly we were retaining the ball, because he kept on trying to make those runs. and get in and overlap with Anderson. And a lot of the time he was there with his hands up, sort of calling for the ball. I didn't think he was our worst player today, Cresswell, certainly. What did you make of Snodgrass moving further into midfield?
He was just ineffective, mate. And this is a theme because we've said it about so many players today, but he was, and he's another player that I am a fan of. I love the work, the graft he puts in, his set pieces, but you've already said it. Set pieces, totally ineffective. We hardly had any. A lot of huff and puff, but lacked any real quality for us today, mate.
Yeah, moving on, Rice, I thought Rice was amongst a bunch of poor players, particularly in the first half. I thought Rice grew into the game. And there's a few players that grew into the game. So I mentioned it about Fredericks earlier, and Cresswell we just mentioned. Far too many are growing into the game, Tom, because we're not starting well enough. So why are they taking so long to acclimatise? The rumour was the bus got there late, but that's just one excuse. We keep doing it. I'm not going to blame the bus. Not Jurgen Klopp. Are we blaming the wind? We're not going to blame the bus. Cardiff were better than us today, but I thought Rice grew into the game. I thought, come the last 20 minutes, he was driving forward, trying to score, trying to lead and trying to dictate, and he won a few tackles where it would have been even more because they were breaking free, and the more we pressed forward, Cardiff, if you could believe it, became even more dangerous than they were in the first minute. Next to Declan Rice, Mark Noble. How do you think he played today, mate?
Yeah, he was quite ineffective today, and I'm a massive Mark Noble fan, mate. I'll defend him to the hilt, but today he was just ineffective. I thought Harry Arter in there was brilliant for them, and I thought he just completely stifled Noble's game, and he probably rightfully came off, unfortunately, mate.
Yeah, it was his 400th league appearance today for West Ham, which is absolutely remarkable and certainly deserves a lot of credit for that. But again, I do think central midfield is an area that Pellegrini, I mean, he's going to have to spread this 25 million quid, Tom, or was it 25 pence? I can't remember. Whatever the budget is, he's going to have to spread it quite a lot, because I think a central midfielder, striker we'll get onto in a minute, and I do think he'll be looking certainly at least one of the fullbacks as well. Next player to have a look at was Felipe Anderson. Well, we discussed him already, and he needs to dictate. He needs to dictate these games. I spoke earlier on in the season, and where I go, one of my builders merchants, the guy that works there knows quite a lot. He's Portuguese, but he knows a lot about Brazilian players and that sort of thing. And he said to me, Felipe Anderson would be 100 million, but he's inconsistent. He said that's why you got him for 40. And I can certainly see that, because those are the sort of games he needs to be dominating. I think the expectation was so high with having Lanzini next to him. You're thinking this is when it's going to happen. But, talking about Lanzini, do you think that was just a little bit, were we seeing there that he's been out for a long time, Tom?
Yeah, you're going to expect that, because he's actually looked $1 million since he's come back, which is crazy, really, when you consider how long he's been out for. It takes a while to get your touch back, get back up to speed, but he's looked great. So yeah, you're gonna expect his progress just to perhaps stifle a little bit, and it might take him a few more weeks to get up to 100%. But even a 70-80% Lanzini is far better than the majority of the players we've got. And like I say, I don't think he played badly today by any stretch of the imagination. He just surrounded by players that weren't good enough.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, we've discussed the other one that started. We've discussed Hernandez already, and we've both given our opinions on Antonio. Nasri, I thought was, man, you know what, he looks like a player that ain't played for 18 months. I know there's a good player there, and there was a little run towards the end, albeit with no end product. But there's a player I think who needs to get to the end of the season and get a pre-season. I think we'll see a lot better Samir Nasri next season. And this is a review of a bad game. Obviously, the last couple of games we were singing the team's praises, and we'd do so again if we'd have won. But we didn't win, and that was a culture shock as well, I think, for a lot today, because there's been talk of Europe, and we're a million miles away. That, as I say, that was Wimbledon syndrome today, and there's something going on with West Ham. Just before we get on to maybe the deeper root causes of it, finally, maybe your thoughts on Arnautovic when he came on today, mate.
I actually thought he huffed and puffed and had a go, actually, to be honest with you, mate. I'll give credit where it's due there. He's not stood around showing any kind of bad attitude or anything like that. I thought he had a go. That one moment where he sort of turned in the box and had that shot was probably our best chance of the game. He's a fantastic player. He really is. But what with everything that's gone on, obviously, there's a massive black mark against his name, unfortunately. But I think we've got to start in the next game now. I really do. Like I say, I thought he had a go. He was far more effective than Hernandez. So, yeah, it's just one of them. Things didn't work out for him today, but I think he huffed and puffed.
Yeah, he certainly did. I mean, we'll deal with this now because we're talking about players. Who was your man of the match today? Are you giving a man of the match trophy today to anyone?
I'll tell you what, at half-time, I'd have given it to Fredericks. Then he fell apart in the second half. It's got to be. I'd give it to Fabianski, mate.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Doesn't need any more dissection, really, does it? There'll be the comments. There'll be a live chat. I haven't got it open at the moment. Sorry, folks, if you're watching this live. I'm not looking at the live chat. I've got enough on me. I've got enough on me plate with me notes and speaking of Tom. But I'm sure we'll see in the live chat. I'm sure we'll see in the comments that the vast majority of people will believe that Fabianski was man of the match because we just didn't play very well at all. I want to ask you the question, Tom, but I sort of I've got my own views on it, obviously. I'm going to ask you the question, what's wrong, and was it a one-off? But it's happening too often to be a one-off. What's going on? Why do we do this? And I know, yeah, it's West Ham and we've always done it and all of that, but I mean more specifically, what is going on now? What do you think? Is it because of Pellegrini's not got the players that he wants? Do you think he's not motivating them properly? Do you think maybe he's just too calm in that dressing room? Is that why we're starting slowly? Because that goes in his favour a lot of the time, that calm, quiet authority. Maybe they had the rockets up their arse, which Warnock had obviously given everyone. What's going on? Why do we peter out? Why do we get a nosebleed every time there's a chance of getting seventh?
I don't really know, mate, to be honest with you. I do think it is just complacency when we come up against teams like this. I do. And I don't think it's players going into the game with the mindset. I seriously don't. I don't think anybody goes into the mindset of, we ain't really got to work hard here today. We still get 3 points. It's just that thing in the back of your mind where, I don't know, it's like Cardiff go into it and other times that we play against teams in that sort of position, they're really up for it because they're fighting for something. What are we really fighting for right now? If we was fighting for a top 4 finish, if we was fighting relegation, maybe it would be different. But as far as the players concerned, does it matter to them if we finish 7th, 8th or 9th? I'm not sure it does, mate, to be honest with you. And that's worrying because any footballer should want to go out and win no matter what the circumstances. But we don't know the mindset, do we? We've got no idea. And I just think teams in the bottom 3, they just turn up and they battle really hard, mate. They're fighting for their lives. And we're not. We're almost playing for pride at the moment, which isn't quite the same, unfortunately.
Yeah. Any final thoughts or observations? Anything we've missed before we sign off and drown our sorrows?
Yeah, no, not really so much about the game, just the fact that if we ever do want to reach our potential and be as good as we can as a club, we have just got to start beating these teams that we really should be beating. It's all very well having a good record against the top 6. That counts for nothing as far as we're concerned. We need to be winning against the teams that we should be winning against. That's how you finish best of the rest or whatever it is, if that's what you want. It's just frustrating and it's annoying and it's bad that we're going into games. I thought before today we were going to struggle. I'm not giving it the big one now after the event. I tweeted something like, please don't do a West Ham, because you just know. And that's a damning indictment, that is in itself.
Yeah, I mean, it's eon spanning that it has been going on for a long time. But I'm not very mystical, mate. I'm not very superstitious. I don't believe that the club's got a curse in it. I can't believe that a squad that's totally different with a different manager and different players to what it was 10 years ago can be having the same issues for the same reason. I don't think there's a West Hamification of what happens to players. But there's definitely something going on. And I'm sure there's a lot of teams. Maybe Newcastle will say the same thing. Maybe Newcastle will be thinking, well, hold on, we were going really, really well. And I don't know what the final result was, but they were certainly losing to Everton at half-time today. Maybe they were thinking, hold on, we were doing really, really well. Then we lose to West Ham and we lose to Everton. And it is that inconsistency. Maybe it's the inconsistency of not having truly top players. Maybe that's just what the top guys do. That's what Kevin De Bruyne does, or name your player at a top club, whatever you want. Maybe they turn it on, game in and game out. But it's highly likely that we're going to turn up at Huddersfield in the next game and we're going to beat them. And we might be looking at it, and do you know what? We'll all enjoy it, and we'll have a great day if it happens. Maybe I'm being presumptuous. Maybe we don't. Maybe we do a West Ham again. But if we beat them, we all enjoy it, and we move on. But we might be wise just to spare a thought and say, hold on, what was going on ahead of Cardiff? Because Manuel Pellegrini certainly spoke when he did his pre-match interview as if there were warnings ahead of Cardiff. It sounded like he was losing the language that would try and encourage the players to guard against complacency. It sounded like he had Wimbledon in his mind. Yet somehow, I didn't feel that they were either fully motivated or fully focused. I definitely a number of times during that match, I was thinking concentration, too easy. I talked about these flicks around the corners and this, that, and the other. Concentrate. You've got to earn the right to play in that flamboyant style. And Cardiff wanted it more and fought more. And as a result of that, actually, you look at players like Murphy and Hoylett, for a lot of the game, they were the guys displaying the most skill. So who in that dressing room is getting hold of the players? I've got a feeling that's a quiet dressing room before a game. And I don't mean, I'm sure when they walk out into the tunnel, they're slapping each other's back and saying, come on, lads, come on. But I mean for the 20 minutes before they walk out into the tunnel, has everyone got their took my headphones on. Has everyone got their headphones in? Listen to their music on their phones? I don't know. I'd like to think Noble's running around, slapping everyone around the face or whatever they do. I think Rice will do that, and Rice will be that. But I mean, what's Rice, 19, 20? Maybe he doesn't feel quite yet mature enough to start going around the dressing room, having a go at people. But I wanted someone to be going around and saying, remember Wimbledon, look, and someone to say, look, we keep mucking this up. We keep getting a nosebleed. They're going to come out here. They're going to fight for us. We know that what Warnock's like. He's an absolute rascal. That team are going to be tearing into us. Harry Arter wouldn't get into our team, but they should have known that he was going to be like a little Jack Russell running around, doing his stuff. But it seemed to be a complete surprise. Who was there in the dressing room riling them up? Maybe they should have retained Stuart Pearce or something like that. I don't know. Tom, I'm going to leave it there, mate. Thank you very much for joining us, my friend.
Thank you very much. Cheers for having me.
Yeah, Tom's joining me. The unlucky Tom is joining me for the Huddersfield game, keeping me in tone company. So we'll find out if I'm right or not, whether we're going to win that game. Poor old Gio has gone today. He's gone to Cardiff with Tom and Bez. Fortunately, I think they'll find a bar and they'll probably drown their sorrows. I'm not going to be able to drown my sorrows. My wife's on night shift. I've got to look after the kids, so I'll be drowning my sorrows with tea. What can you do? Please subscribe if you're new. If you've already subscribed, you're probably going to want to unsubscribe because we've depressed you so much. Thank you to Tom. Thanks for tuning in. They've spotted the weekend, really.